Radar Festival 2025 ended up being a bit of a controversial one as one of their headliners got removed, but I'm not going to be talking about that because this is not a political channel and there's all kinds of nuance in there that I just don't have the details for. So there is a podcast called Two Promoters One Pod, and they had a guest in Catherine who books Radar Festival, and there's a great conversation there. So if you want to know more about that, go check out that interview. But here, I want to talk about what the festival was actually like in 2025, the things that did happen, the bands that did play, and what the setup was, and what I thought of it generally as an experience. Now, this festival has so much going on for it other than just booking great live bands. And you know what? Only for the first time this year did I really click why it's called Radar Festival. And maybe I'm wrong about this, but in my view, perhaps it's called Radar Festival because it seems to book exclusively bands that should be on your radar. These are up-and-coming bands that maybe not everyone particularly knows about, but every single set I've seen has been with really impressive musicianship or really creative songwriting, something a little bit different, or just executed at such a high level that you can't deny it's really good. They only seem to book bands that deserve, clearly, when you see them live, a bigger audience than they currently have. So it's a chance to see real talent early on, and that's part of the reason why I love going to this festival. I always discover some new act I've never heard of before that then goes on to be either one of my favorites or simply one of the bigger bands in the scene in future. I can see that trajectory from some of the bands from last year, for example. I'm thinking Unpeople, and I'm thinking Vower as well. Seeing them there and going, oh shit, and seeing where they've got to since then, this is an incubator for new bands to demonstrate just how fucking good they are at a festival and go on to do bigger and better things. So always excited to see the lineup at Radar Festival and go to as much of it as I can. I had some scheduling issues this year, but it's a wonderful place, and there's no clashes. The way they build the lineups with the two stages is one stage, the band ends, and that's when the next band starts. And when they end, the next band on the other stage starts up. So you can see every single band every day if you have the leg strength and the back strength to do so, which I don't always. So I think I saw 13 bands or something on the Saturday. That's a lot of bands. It is kind of tiring a little bit, so you have to have some breaks built in here and there if you can. But there's the opportunity to see just wall-to-wall impressive music from start to finish every day. Hey, by the way, have you subscribed yet? If you haven't, please do. It's free. Thanks for that. On to the video. Now, worth noting, I didn't get to see the entire festival. So I was there for the end of the Friday and all day on the Saturday. I was doing a Q&A with Tobias Forge from Ghost in Birmingham earlier on the Friday, so I couldn't get to Radar Festival until Zeal Ardor. I'm so glad I was able to check them out because I was keen to. I'd enjoyed some bits and pieces of their songs I've heard before. They're a very interesting band, and they have moments of fucking absolutely amazing things. They're also quite experimental, so sometimes I'm just not really sure about it. But live, it is a completely different experience. It is astonishing. It was trance-like. Reminded me of when I'd see bands like Korn live for the first time. Just like, holy shit. The power of the music, the journey of the songs in a live context, and the multi-part harmonies, and all the kind of repetitions of vocal moments, and the lighting that the lighting engineer was doing for them as well. It was so powerfully captivating. That was one of the best sets of the weekend that I was able to see. Genuinely, Zeal Ardor blew my fucking mind. So that was fabulous. After them, over on the other stage was Ghostkid, a band that I think I might have heard one or two bits from before, but didn't really have much context for what they were like, had never seen them live before, and I enjoyed them. I thought they were good. The songs are pretty solid overall. There's some catchy sing-along melodies here and there. They also had variation between the songs. They weren't all just the same kind of metalcore thing one after another. There were different moods expressed throughout their set, which I enjoyed. The vocal abilities of their singer was very impressive. The variety of different scream vocal techniques in there, and also just moments of kind of spoken word, kind of rap bits and pieces. Very, very impressive. And I liked that they had a bit of extra theater about them with their attire, costume, makeup, bits and pieces. It was a captivating visual experience, very energetic show. I think they did a very good job. And I'd be keen to see them again at some point on a different stage and see what that's like as well. And then it was the headliner in Carpenter Brut, who I had seen briefly once before at Download Festival. So I had some idea of what to expect, but I'd never seen a full set of theirs. And also, at Download, they were playing the Dogtooth stage, and the sound's never that great there. So it was great to be able to take in their live performance at Radar Festival. The sound was pretty good overall. The only thing is, it was still kind of muddy, I think, in the sort of guitar, in the lower end bits and pieces, which is kind of surprising because the drums, they're acoustic drums on the stage, but there's a sort of, there must be triggered or there's some kind of digital aspect because there's sampled sounds that you get. I'm just surprised that some of that is a little bit muddy within the mix. It was a little bit at times, even when I'd wander around the venue. So that's a bit of a shame. Also, just my personal preference, I love a band to have some vocals. I'm less, I don't know, connected to instrumental performances generally, because I think it's all well and good, but I could happily enjoy that as a track and not need to see the individuals on stage playing the keys on the keyboard that just makes the keyboard sound. I don't know. It's a thing I'm still working out in my head. Why are vocals so important? But there's some kind of a human connective element to that I think lacks a little bit in instrumental bands. But there was a big crowd for them. Everyone seemed to have a fucking wonderful time. And it was fun. They were pretty jaunty. They're very, very good musicians. That is absolutely, undeniable. And I enjoyed their closer. They closed with She's a Maniac by, I had to look this up, Michael Cimbello. They did a cover of that, which was awesome. So they basically turned Radar Festival into a club for an hour and a bit. And that was kind of fun. Kind of jaunty. Not usually my go-to for live performance bits and pieces, but it was good. So it was cool to check out a couple of bands that were playing late on the Friday once I got there. But then it was the Saturday, which was the full day I was able to enjoy from start to finish. And the opening band was Break 50, who I'd never heard of before. They are seemingly like a hardcore band, and I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty fucking loud. Pretty high energy, pretty angry, which is the kind of thing you hope for from hardcore bands. So they kicked things off at, 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and it was, really woke you up. Really woke you up with that energy. I think they did a pretty decent job overall. I've seen a few hardcore bands now over the years, and they were just as good as some of the other ones I've seen. So tons of potential there for Break 50. Pretty decent band overall. Then over on the main stage was a band I hadn't heard of before as well, called Umbra, spelt with a V instead of the U, because, that's what happens in 2025. So they were a kind of progressive folk band. It's guitar rock, it's kind of progressive rock, but there are some real folky elements to it. There's a theatricality to the way the songs develop, but also the delivery, the vocal delivery styles, the harmonies, and the melodies that were going on there. It was pretty good overall. It's not entirely my cup of tea in terms of, I think that sort of progressive folk is well performed, and there were moments I thought that really came together. A couple songs in particular were some really wonderful guitar licks in there, and they were good. They were a good band. Very interesting, a little bit unique. Not quite the style of kind of rock music that really connects for me, but it was, well done. And they seemed to do a very good job of playing on the main stage, which I believe they weren't expecting to do that day, as I heard them mentioning that at some point in the press area. So well done to them. They did a very, very good job on that stage, for sure. Then I was over on the second stage again to check out Drawn Dagger. Another band who were completely new to me, and I think their songs were fine. Kind of solid hard rock, moments of kind of almost metalcore. There's a couple of scream moments in there, but plenty of angst and fire within them. But it was obvious though in the first 2 or 3 songs they were playing that the vocalist was not happy for some reason. Kept taking her in-ears out and back in. just didn't seem like they were completely settled as they paced around to do their performance. And then it transpired there was something wrong with the in-ears. Now this is where things get interesting, because this is a real test for bands. When things aren't working, what do you do? And I was very impressed with how they handled it. She just vaulted over the barrier into the crowd so she could hear her voice through the main speakers, just did the rest of the gig from inside the crowd. That is a fucking cool move. The show must go on. Didn't just like go, sorry, I've got no functioning ears, off we go. Cracked on with the show and actually made it a special set as a result. There was no other band this weekend, at least the parts that I saw, that did that. That gave it a great kind of connective and interesting aspect to it. She was there doing, the circle pit zoomies along with everyone else, and it made it a far more interesting show than perhaps it might have been otherwise. So a massive applause to Drawn Dagger for getting through the technical difficulties and still delivering a pretty decent show overall. There are moments in their songs I think show potential. Pretty solid overall. Yeah, good band, but very, very enjoyable for the uniqueness of what they had to overcome and how well they managed to do so. Now, after them, on the main stage, was a band called Pintglass. And I wasn't really familiar with Pintglass, so I heard one of their songs on the way up to Radar Festival in the car, and I was like, really? What is this? It's hardcore, but it's from the point of view of like English geezer construction workers, if they wrote hardcore songs. So it's a heavy on the gimmicky side of things. So I was curious to see what the onstage banter would be like, what the sound quality would be like, what's the engineering like for them, and does the gimmick last? How good is the hardcore that they're putting out? And I expected, honestly, to check out like a song or two, and they'd be like, cool, I've seen it, it's fine, I get what it is, off we go. However, I thought it was pretty good, actually. I mean, once they jump on the stage, it is kind of like, I don't know if I want to spend time in this particular laddish geezer point sort of culture, right? Even if it is a satirical delivery of it. But the music was pretty good. They're actually a pretty decent hardcore band. The live performance element, I was really impressed with. The vocalists, very good. The musicians, fucking solid as hell. The sound overall, the mix, is pretty excellent. They were actually a very good band. Now, I'm still kind of not fully in on the concept of something I want to spend a lot of time in as a lyrical and performative sort of thing. It's not really my vibe, but credit where credit's due. I think they did a good job. They really leaned into the gimmick hard and made it feel kind of oddly authentic in its own way. It was surprisingly enjoyable. Yeah, it was quite an experience seeing Pintglass. Fair play. After them, over on the second stage, was Lastelle, who I was very much looking forward to seeing. So I've heard a couple of songs of theirs by doing reactions on this channel here, and really enjoyed them. The sort of post-hardcore, melodic, pop-punk adjacent sort of thing. Like the story so far, with a sort of 2000s kind of a vibe. It's hard to kind of describe, but excited to see them play live, and I was duly impressed. Every song felt like a warm hug. Every song has this sort of wall of sound that you can just kind of sit in for a while. Glorious, harmonious melodies, multi-part harmonies, sometimes a fucking horde as well. One of them was kind of glorious. But yeah, a lovely, overall, atmospheric, harmonious tone to enjoy from start to finish. My only real criticism is that because all of their songs, I think, are a little bit similar to each other, because that's kind of their sound. They put forward these wonderful chord progressions and harmonies over the top and just kind of bathe in that for a bit. So there's some tempo changes, there's lyrical changes, of course, there's different melodies and things. But overall, I'd be hard-pressed to pick an individual song that I would remember during their set, because they're all kind of in the same vein, except if you've happened to have heard a song before. Maybe the main chorus hook, like Breathe Me In, or Life in Silhouettes is the other one I knew. Those stood out only because I was familiar with them, but otherwise, if you haven't heard the songs before, it's a little bit samey from start to finish, but I still really loved it because I wasn't there to be like, well, how interesting can each song be as a separate thing? It was a lovely atmosphere to enjoy from start to finish. So I genuinely really enjoyed Lastelle. Thought that was pretty fabulous. Then over onto the main stage for Ocean's 8 Alaska. It's a band name I've heard kicked around here and there. I think I've probably heard one or two of their songs, but I'm not super familiar with them. However, I am familiar with their drummer, Chris Turner. He is an absolute beast. Not only is he an incredible human metronome, the evenness of all of the strokes between his playing is so perfect. That's really impressive. But beyond that, the speed and the technicality and the coordination to be able to do all of that whilst being such a metronomic drummer is so mind-boggling that I was delighted to have the chance to see him perform live on a real fucking drum kit in front of my eyes and my earballs. It was so amazing. The only downside was, I think because in part I was so keen to hear him and his drums, the drums were kind of quiet in the mix, which is like, but that's Chris Turner, please turn them up, which is a bit unfortunate. Now luckily being at the front of the barrier for the footage I had there, I wasn't too far away from the drum kit, so I could get a lot of that. So I really enjoyed his performance, and to be fair, I didn't really know their songs that well, but they did a good job overall. I think the mix in the room was challenging at times, but you could tell that there was real talent there and some interesting songwriting going on as well. The vocalist has very impressive range of scream vocals and pipes. Some clean vocals and melodies here and there, which maybe aren't the strongest part of it, but that's fine. I love that they were real. I love that they weren't auto-tuned. It was a very impressive performance from real human beings playing real music themselves, and I'm always in support of that. So very cool to see Ocean's 8 Alaska, but especially cool to have seen Chris Turner. I was lucky enough as well to catch him for a very brief chat later on in the day, just to let him know how fucking impressive I find his drumming. And he was a lovely individual. So that's another great thing about Radar Festival. If there's a band playing and you're hoping to meet any members of them, they tend to mill around and see the other bands. It's a very kind of communal, wonderful space, this festival indeed. So very cool to have chatted briefly there with Chris Turner, who is one of the most amazing drummers of the current era in rock music. So that was a treat. After them, I caught a little bit of Arch Echo, who I'd not heard of before, I think, or at least it didn't ring any bells. They are an instrumentalist band and very impressive. As generally, I don't think I've ever seen an instrumentalist band who isn't just formed of complete virtuosos. Maybe they're just amazing musicians and they just can't, for whatever reason, find a vocalist. But they've formed a band that makes some amazing music, and Arch Echo were really impressive. They were really impressive. The musicianship was amazing, but it does just feel a little bit to me like a series of solos, which is essentially what it is. But I enjoy that for a bit, but I grow tired of that over time. So a full set list of that is kind of too much for me, but cool to take in their particular voicing and their abilities and see a little bit of them. Very impressive, all of them. The musicianship was, off the charts. But songwriting, when it feels like it's a selection of just like, look how good I am solos, I don't know, it doesn't really do it for me. But the reception they got from the crowd was very strong. So I think they went down great. If you were into that sort of thing, they were decent at it, for sure. And then we're on to the band that I was most excited to see this particular day, which was Novelists, a band I've seen a couple times before already, and they've always impressed. And I was excited to see them on the main stage at Radar Festival, because I knew they were just going to absolutely take it by the horns and crush it, which is exactly what they did. To be honest, that for me was like headliner worthy at Radar Festival kind of a performance from Novelist. The musicianship they have is incredible. The showmanship is fantastic, especially from Camille. And the vocal abilities are off the scale. Her live vocals are so impressive. And the set list was brilliant. The variety of songs they put together, they do have amazing, almost like, look how good I am sort of solos, but they're very musical, they're sparing, they're in little moments where they add a little bit of an extra element to a song in the bridge, for example. So I find them to be quite tasteful, actually, in their songs, and they absolutely crushed. They were so fucking good. And I was delighted because I saw them at Download Festival, and the mix wasn't quite as good as I'd heard of them previously, because that tends really hard, the Dogtooth stage, always. But Radar Festival has the potential of very good sound generally, so they were able to make the full use of that. And yeah, that was maybe, like, hashtag my headliner. That was my favorite band of the day. That was super impressive. They were phenomenal. But as they always are. So Novelists, a delight to see every time. Then on the second stage, I saw a bit of a band called Shelf Lives. Who, it's just not my kind of thing really. It's kind of punkish, which is cool. I like a bit of punk attitude. I thought the songs that I checked out were, it's kind of more almost like beat poem art and kind of punkish, but oddly lacking a bit of firepower in the sound, perhaps. It was just, there were two people in the band, so there's backing track for drums, and yeah, there was a bit of an angstiness to it. More of a kind of like a almost sarcastic delivery of angstiness rather than sort of, I don't know, authentic firepower of energy. I don't know. It didn't really land for me, but I'm sure the people that hung around to see their set enjoyed it. I like that there is a variety of acts at Radar Festival. Even if something's not quite for me, it's great that it fucking exists. Because we can't all just have festivals full of the same bands we all like. That would be really boring. So I liked that they had something different on there, but it wasn't quite my cup of tea. But that's fine. Not a problem. Interesting to see something new that I've not heard before, so that's always a worthwhile experience. Then on the main stage, again, was another instrumentalist band, and you know what? Sometimes it does work for me. This is a band called Intervals. And they are super fucking impressive musicians, but it felt less like a series of look at me guitar solos. And actually the songwriting itself was really strong. The way the songs developed, they kind of loop within grooves and vibes for a bit longer, which I really enjoyed. And you can kind of imagine, I still think it would be better if there was a vocal over the top of it. But it was great, kind of genty, progressive metal with tons of groove that I responded to a little bit more positively than some other instrumental bands in the same kind of progressive rock world. So Intervals were pretty fucking cool. They did a great job, good energy. I liked their demeanor between songs as well. They were had a great vibe, really good musicianship, but also the songwriting I think was particularly strong with them. So Intervals was well worth seeing. I did enjoy them. Then back over to the second stage to see Annisokay, a band that I am familiar with. I think I've heard maybe 4 or 5 of their songs previously. Always pretty solid, some moments of deliciousness, like they're a very good, talented, polished metalcore band. So I was excited to see what they'd be like live, and they impressed me. I enjoyed them live more than I enjoyed them on record, and on record I think they're decent. I think they're pretty decent band, but live it somehow really connects. The clean vocalist on the guitar can do that live. His live vocals were super impressive, actually brilliant. It really helps the hookiness of their choruses kind of thrive in a live environment, and their kind of frontman scream vocalist had great energy and a fucking tsunami of noise anytime you wanted to go for the harsh or low gutturals over the top of everything. Really impressive generation of sound from that particular individual. Great band overall. Good songs. They were all kind of different in their own way. Good variety throughout the set list. I was very impressed with Annisokay. I would see them again. Even though I do think there's potentially, it's a little bit metalcore by numbers at times, and not particularly that well differentiated from other bands in the scene, but they're so good at what they do that it's a compelling show. I thought they were pretty good, and yeah, I'd see them again. Annisokay were beyond decent. I thought they were very good, actually, at Radar Festival. And then on to the headliner, who didn't expect to be the headliner. Obviously, they filled in that gap as all the bands got pushed up due to the cancellation that happened. But they were fucking great. Now, I've seen them live before many, many years ago at Download Festival. I remember thinking they were pretty good, and I've enjoyed a couple of the songs over the years, so I expected them to be pretty decent, but actually, they stepped into the headliner role brilliantly. Their sound was fucking perfect. They clearly have a very gifted sound engineer. It sounded fantastic. Great set list of songs. Good variety between the songs. Every song stood out on its own as well. Good charisma from the frontman, great vocals. Now, I noticed as the set went on, there's a decent amount of autotune being relied on here and there. Maybe that's for aesthetic, choice there, and they like the sound of that, or maybe it's a long set and they want to make sure they hit all the notes as well as possible. I don't really know the reasons for it. I personally would rather there was less of the autotune, because I want more of the humanity behind it than that kind of thing. But that's a me thing. That's a sound that I don't particularly gel with too much. I don't really like it. I like more of a curvature between notes than an exact sort of jigsaw puzzle fix. Cliff edge between the notes. I just don't really like that transition. I prefer more of a nuanced, real human vocal. So that's the only thing that really I was like, it'd be better if not. But maybe that's just a me thing. Maybe the rest of the audience really liked the fact that the vocals are tuned the way they are for the live performance. I don't know. But it didn't massively detract from my enjoyment of their show. It was wonderful. They got some great songs, good sing-along moments. Their performance was fabulous. Their energy was great. And I think they were an appropriate headliner, actually. I think them stepping into that role, they did a good job. It was a very happy, positive, good energy ending to the Saturday of Radar Festival. And also, there's other great bits and pieces going on at Radar Festival beyond just the live acts. Of course, you've got food vendors and bars and merch that you can purchase, but also there are masterclasses that happen. So musicians playing at the festival will showcase how they do what they do in terms of their performances and musicianship. That is a really rare thing and an amazing opportunity for up-and-coming musicians to be able to go and partake in. There's a whole marketplace of guitar builders and shops and merch stores and technology companies are showcasing the musical bits and pieces that they plug into. There's a space where you can just go and jam. There's just instruments in a room like drums and piano and guitars. Just go in there, fucking play. It's a really cool catalyst for people to experiment, learn new things about other technology, other instruments, other players, performance styles, and just get a little bit closer to the musical element rather than just being a bystander watching as an audience member some live music. You can also get a little bit closer to how the stuff works and where it's going, what the future of music can be. It's a really fucking cool idea and layout, and everyone's super friendly and welcoming. No one's made to feel like, oh, you don't know this guitar company? What are you, an idiot? Like, everyone's there to welcome everyone in and help show the cool stuff that they're passionate about. There are also stalls to do with gaming, and there's other kind of merch stalls. You could buy some cool socks. There was a vinyl store. It was awesome. It was very independent DIY sort of feel to it, but with the professionalism of a well-knit together festival. It's always a treat. And it is the most chilled out, friendly, calm, and inviting festival that I've ever been to still. And I've never struggled to get a good view of a particular band. Everyone's super respectful if anyone's trying to go a bit closer. No one's going, elbows out, trying to be difficult. The whole atmosphere and the culture of this festival is incredibly kind and generous and welcoming. And that is a wonderful thing, and it should be protected at all costs. So if that's the kind of thing that interests you, I highly recommend you check out Radar Festival next year, assuming and hoping that happens again, because it is genuinely a wonderful experience from start to finish. It's so good. And because it's all indoors, it doesn't really matter what the weather's like. The food vendors are outside in the rain, so maybe time the rain for when you're going to get some food. But otherwise, weather will never affect the band's performances, and I think it's a marvelous thing, especially because it rained most of the days when I was there. So that was very much appreciated. So yeah, consistent with my first experience of Radar last year, 2025 was a wonderful festival, and absolute congratulations to everyone who's involved in putting that thing on. I know they had a very difficult week leading up to it, obviously with the whole Bob Villain situation, so that was incredibly difficult for them to navigate, and I think they've all done a brilliant job of still having that festival happen, because I'm sure that was not a guarantee. So hats off to everyone who was involved in that. It was a really wonderful lineup of bands, and as per usual, I'm gutted I wasn't able to see the whole weekend. There were bands on the other days I wanted to see really badly, like Tropic Gold. I've never seen them live before. I'm desperate to do so. I've interviewed them on this channel and love their music. There's always great bands across all the 3 days. There were some on the Sunday I wanted to see as well, but it is what it is. Hopefully next year, perhaps I can see the full weekend if that works out scheduling-wise, but it was totally worth it for the Saturday that I got to enjoy and the parts of Friday that I could as well. Fabulous festival. Such a great time. And also on a personal note, thank you to everyone who stopped and said hello, that they appreciated what I'm doing here on the channel. It was wonderful to meet so many very kind and lovely people who were familiar with what I'm doing here on YouTube. That part of it is increasingly happening, and I massively appreciate that. I'm really grateful for the platform that this seems to have built into. So thank you very much to everyone I stopped and said hello to. Do always say hi if you see me. I'm a very friendly, welcoming person. I love to connect with people that also like the stuff that I'm doing. Like, of course, why wouldn't you want to talk to people who have a common interest as you do? So that was lovely. And I also got to chat to Mike Dawes for a little bit as well. He's an amazing guitarist who you've probably seen here and there on YouTube. I've reacted to a couple of his videos, and he was there just to take in the festival and enjoy it. You know, it really is a festival put on by people who truly appreciate music, the power of it, the connectivity of it, and how important it is as a key part of society, really. And it's attended seemingly by people who also understand that and value that. It's a very wonderful community, and I can't wait to go back and enjoy Radar Festival in future. Fabulous festival, filled with wonderful people, great bands. Highly recommend you check it out if you get the chance. If you enjoyed this review, by the way, make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already done so. It's free to subscribe. Costs you nothing, and it means you're more likely to see more things like this on YouTube if this is the kind of thing you enjoy. So thank you for watching this. Hopefully you'll come and watch another one of my videos very soon.